earn more money but too busy to start a side hustle? Do it the right way and teach your money to make more money for yourself, even when you're asleep. Dale Corpus will show you just how here on the School of Cash Flow. With his entrepreneurial mindset and extensive experience in real estate and finance, Dale will help you become a responsible, strategic, and passionate passive real estate investor. Learn how you can increase your earnings or find more ways to make money, only here on the School of Cash Flow.
Good afternoon and welcome to School of Cash Flow podcast. I'm the host, Dale Corpus. So this episode is going to have a different flavor today. Most of my guests are mainly real estate investing focus. And today's episode is still related to the topic of money, cash flow, but from a different perspective. We'll be talking about money, finances, and a healthy relationship with money as a whole. My guest today, Sara Bronson. She's the founder and CEO of Amani Financial LLC, a company that empowers small business owners to build profitable businesses and close the wealth gap. With over 30 years of experience in the field, Sara has become an expert in financial literacy, having personally overcome her own struggles with money. By combining her accounting skills with the habits of financially successful people, Sara developed new money management strategies that enabled her to pay off her debt and purchase a home in less than 7 years. She's passionate about making the conversation around money more inclusive and accessible, and she believes that financial literacy is essential to closing the wealth gap and promoting financial independence. That being said, well, I'm excited to have her on the show. Welcome to the show, Sara. How are you?
Oh, hello, Dale. I am great. And thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to see where the conversation goes. And I just have to say that I've been listening to your podcast and the value that you bring with each and every guest is so inspiring. And I get something out of every conversation you've had. So I'm delighted to be here and see what comes up.
I love it. From listener to guest. For those of you listening right now, you never know, you might be a guest. So just for just point of reference, like where are you based out of geographically for my audience that may not know you yet?
I am in Sonoma, California, so I'm just north of you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're about I'm in San Ramon. You're like a little bit over an hour away from me.
Yeah.
One of the things when I was just reading about you in your bio, one of the things I wanted to start off with is this concept of like the what is this wealth gap? What does that mean?
Well, there is a wealth gap based on your demographics and where we grew up, not only geographic, but what are our cultural demographics. And the divide between the haves and the have-nots is getting bigger and bigger, as we know. Okay. And in order for us to have a bigger voice in our community and to have a seat at the table, if you will, we need to have access to financial resources and be able to manage them so that we can grow our own wealth, we can create generational wealth, and we also can have better purchasing power. And as I said, have a bigger say at the table. Whatever table that is, you need to be able to get there.
Okay, got it. I think that the niche you're in financial literacy, financial education, is very important. It's important. I mean, a lot of the folks listening here are real estate investors, but just important in general because they don't really teach too much about it in schools. I don't know what your educational background is. I'm kind of curious to know what your overall story was to get you to where you are today, where you're helping people become financially literate, and I could tell you're very passionate about it. So tell me more of your background.
Well, I grew up in the Midwest. I'm one of a large family. I'm one of 10 kids, and my dad was an entrepreneur, and he did very well. And my grandfather was an entrepreneur. So this entrepreneurial spirit is ingrained in my DNA. But we had a pretty good life. And when I was young, I asked about money as a young child. And I was told by my parents that don't worry about money, get a good education. That was always very important in my family and Midwest white family values. Mm-hmm. Get a good education, go to college, find a man, and he will take care of you. You raise a family and have a great life. Well, that was before the mid 60s hit, when the women's liberation movement was growing and the civil rights movement was growing, and opportunities and social mores were changing. And so as my older brothers and sisters came back from college, things changed. You didn't need a man to take care of you. You could go out into the world, kind of that superwoman syndrome. And so I graduated college, but without the husband, and just really armed to take on the world. And got into the IT industry and the accounting field very early on, and was helping small business owners migrate from manual books to the new automated computer systems. I'm telling my age. And because we were doing great service for our clients, but because I didn't have that financial literacy or that financial education, in a few short years, I was bankrupt. We were doing great stuff. We had cash flow, but I wasn't really watching profitability. And it was my bankruptcy lawyer that gave me the very best advice. And he said, go model your behavior after people who are wealthy and figure out what they do and change your habits and change your behavior. And I listened and I did just that. And I happened to be in the IT industry. I was able to make more money, and cash is king, as we know. And I was able to pay off bankruptcy and buy my home as a single woman. And from all that, and then when I moved to California in 2000, well, let me pause there for a minute and share that after I bought that home, I was getting ready to remodel it. And in 2008, I was signing up for a remodeling loan. And this was the time of the
mortgage credit crisis.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And I'd been negotiating with a mortgage broker for a 30-year fix. I knew the numbers. I knew what I could handle. I wasn't trying to take more money out of the house, though that was the conversation at the time, was get more money out. Your payments are going to be lower because of arms and things like that. And I was ready to sign on the dotted line. And I distinctly remember on my way to work, and that mortgage broker called me and said, we're not going to do that 30-year fixed. I've got a great product for you. It's going to get you more out of the house. It's going to save you some money. It'll be great. And I wasn't really smart about things then, but I knew enough about the numbers where it didn't add up. I didn't want to take more out of the house. I didn't want an adjustable rate. And I canceled that relationship and went and got a 30-year fixed. And of course, I didn't lose my house when the market crashed. But I did move to California in 2008, 2009. And the job that I came for was lost when things changed, and I didn't know what to do. And I also went to school and got certified as a life coach. And so I hung my accounting shingle, and that business took off right away. And as a coach, listening with a new ear, as I was presenting financial statements to my clients who were small business owners, I watched the terror come over them as I'm presenting the numbers, and they're wondering, how does it look? How many mistakes have I made? Is it good or is it bad? And from there, I started to do more research and started to really understand the relationship between our emotional financial relationship and that practical relationship, and why the two of them are really important.
Got it. So it looks like you really took to heart everything that bankruptcy attorney had said to really model wealthy, folks and what their habits are like. Who did you end up modeling? Was it, people in your circles, or did you have to actually find people outside, that you didn't know?
Both. I actually had family members I watched them use technology to reconcile their bank account, manage their finances, understand how much they were putting away for investments, manage their taxes. I also had a prior boss who worked in acquisitions and divestitures, and I went and spoke with him. So it was a lot of folks in my circle that either I'd had business relationships or I had personal relationships who would talk to me. And that's also the challenge with money, is we haven't been very comfortable in talking about it with each other. And I find that the more we can be comfortable sharing that information, the more we inspire each other, or anytime there's a conversation, you learn something new, whether it's investing or saving or taxes or whatever. I really want to help make this conversation of money much more mainstream than it is now.
Yeah, I know some families and cultures seem to be more okay about talking about money, and some others not so much. do you have an opinion as to where initial feelings or habits around money are formed? Do you think it starts as a kid by watching parents, or do you think it's something else? I mean, I'm just thinking of this. I'm only asking this because even in my own family, it's just like there's a lot of my own family is not necessarily good with money, but like, I mean, I've always been really, really good with saving money, just because I grew up with, like, we didn't have anything. So I always knew I was always a good saver from the beginning, but I can't say that for all of my family. Do you have any opinions of where people are forming their habits just initially about their relationship with money?
I do. And it's one of the topics that we cover in the workshops that I've developed called the Amani Money Method. And you're spot on. And it's a fascinating conversation when we bring people. It's more fun the more diverse group that we're talking amongst.
Is like in terms of culturally, or what are we talking about?
Culture, race, gender, age. The more diverse we can have it. And I'll share a little story in a minute that I think you'll find interesting. But it really begins with when did we first understand there was this thing called money? And then where did we get that education? And as early childhood educators will tell you, that you develop most of your beliefs by age 5 based on your experiences. And depending on how you grew up and where you grew up, and I'm one of 10.
Wow.
10 of us got a little bit of a different information about money based on what we heard and where the family was at that time, whether you were male or female, whether the family was doing well or not. Did you have a single parent home? And so that's really where, once we start to explore what are my beliefs about money, because our beliefs are driving our decisions. What we show on paper, the flow on paper is one thing, and we can use that to make decisions. But there's also that emotional relationship with money that drives our decisions. And so back to this conversation of where do we get our beliefs about money, something that I'll share that I find very interesting is when I have these workshops and I talk to my attendees, and if it's a short workshop, we start with doing a Q&A on the practical. You know, the inflow, the outflow, when do I hire, all those kinds of things. But then I'll ask and share that I have these exercises I want to do that are more about the emotional relationship with money. And do they prefer to go practical or stay practical, or go emotional? And in my small test groups, 100% of the time, it's the men that pipe up quickly and say, go emotional. And from there, the floodgates open and we have a really, really powerful conversation.
Interesting. Talk about, so what are the differences again between like practical and emotional, that relationship with money? So, what kind of questions like do you ask on the practical side versus the emotional side?
The practical side is really what I call, Dale, learning the language of money. So, and I'm working with business owners primarily, but this translates to our homes as well, what I call our personal economy. So it's knowing what's our income or revenue, what's our expenses, and how are we spending or sharing our money? How are we choosing to spend, and in what categories do those align with our priorities in life? Mm-hmm. Are we even paying attention to what our priorities are, and then how are we spending our money to support those priorities? And then there's the balance sheet side of the equation. And the profit and loss statement is a language, the balance sheet is a language, and they're tied together. And the balance sheet talks about assets and liabilities. The assets are, what do you own? What can you turn to cash? Who do you owe? And then the equity is what's left over. And you might be using assets to buy some liabilities. You might be using some cash to buy a home. You might be using some cash to invest in or have a loan that's going to allow you to buy and invest in your business, whatever that is you need to grow, whether it's equipment or a space or a team or whatever it is. So that's the practical side, is really understanding the numbers and how those numbers impact us for saving, for investing, for minimizing our tax liability, for preparing for buying real estate, whatever it is. And when people go for a mortgage, what's one of the things that you're asked for is your financial statements. That's the practical side. The emotional side is, how am I making financial decisions? Am I not taking that next step because I'm worried about pennies? Or am I not taking that next step because I'm worried about things that don't even relate to the challenges that I might have ahead. So sometimes what I find is that people think small and think that they're saving themselves money because they don't make a particular investment, when if you make that investment, the returns would make you 2 or 3 times more money than that little amount that you're saving by not moving forward.
Got it. That does make sense, because I feel like on the emotional side, a lot of the decisions made over there might be stemming from like fear, maybe like the scarcity mindset versus that abundance mindset, right? Like I'm an entrepreneur, so we talked about these kinds of things myself. So I get that. Sometimes people get paralyzed that they won't have enough. Yeah, they won't have enough, and yeah, it's just they get paralyzed on making like it's hard to make money decisions and whatnot. How do people overcome stuff like that? Like being, when a good business decision can be made by spending money up front that'll be paying 20-fold down the line. How do you coach people, to get out of that fear, that scarcity mindset?
Well, it's twofold, and part of it is really having that conversation of what are their beliefs about money. What are their fears? What you brought up is so spot on. Is the fear of not enoughness. I've interviewed people on both ends of the economic spectrum, whether you're making very little money or whether you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. The similar emotional relationship with money is true, is that not enoughness. Will I have enough when I need it? If you're on the lower end of the spectrum, you're always feeling like there's never enough and will I ever catch up?
Mm-hmm.
But people who also make a lot of money, there often are those fears. When you make a lot of money, you have a lot of responsibilities. You've got to have a team around you. You need to spend that money in order to minimize your taxes. There's lots of things you have to think about. And if you're managing a big team, or maybe you've got family members and other folks who are relying on you, there's always that concern about, will I have enough when I need it, or when someone in my circle needs it? And so really doing the emotional work and having these conversations where we uncover, how did you get your beliefs about money? What are your beliefs about money? And then opening up an abundant mindset. And there's all kinds of exercises that we can do on a daily basis in group settings around gratitude, around how we see things, how we speak about money is super important. If we're always talking about, I don't have, or it's going to cost too much, or those kind of things, that's constricting energy. Can you feel it when we speak about it? Right. And so you want to be able to speak about money and be grateful when the bills walk in the door that you have the money to pay it. Look forward to whatever it is that you want, looking forward to the day that you have the money to be able to purchase that, instead of always thinking, I will never be in that mode.
Got it. Yeah, that does make sense. Money is almost like a flow of energy when you think about it. I mean, do you agree? I mean, that's kind of how I see it as well. It's like what you think and what you believe, you will attract.
Completely.
And it almost seems like that's kind of what you're also like. I feel like that's what you're teaching.
It is. And I consider money to be just energy. It's a piece of paper, and it represents an agreed upon value. You and I both agree that $1 is $1. How we value $1 might be very different from our circumstances, but money needs to flow, and it is just energy. Think about where it came from. It developed out of the barter system, and then societies grew to a point where the barter system was not manageable. So now we have this monetary representation of value and how we exchange things. So it is very much, in my world, very much energy. And the way that we exchange it, the gratitude, the abundance mindset, the belief that it's flowing and that it will flow to me as long as I open up and am receptive to it. It does flow that way, but we have to be open to it.
Got it. That like attracts like. Yeah.
Like attracts like. And the one thing I will say, that someone taught me this early on, and I believe it wholeheartedly. Do you know what money's number one job is?
I don't. What is it?
In my world, money's number one job is to be in service. And our job is to work with it and help it understand how we want it to be in service with us. Instead of it making an external thing in our world or something that we're nervous about or unsure how to manage, let's understand the skills that we need to get to learn how to manage that money. Let's learn those skills.
Yeah.
And then attract more money to our world, because when we create a safe environment for money, money attracts more money.
Got it. That makes sense. I wanted to, sorry, I cut you off. Did you have something? Did you want to continue?
I'm sorry. No, I was just saying it is the law of abundance.
Law of abundance. Regarding your business, like what's your client avatar? Like what kinds of clients like come to you? Or what are you looking for? Or who are you looking to mainly help?
Our primary clientele is small business owners who have a business that they love. And they focused on all the other departments except for the accounting department. And so now they're ready to take control of their money. So the early 6-figure to early 7-figure business owners who really want to understand the flow of money through their business. They're ready to learn the language of money, learn how to use their financial statements and the financial data to make informed decisions and build a profitable business so that they can actually create the wealth that they want to.
We got it. Speaking of business owners, I mean, as we all know, most businesses, fail in the first initial years or whatnot. I mean, what are the reasons for all of that?
Well, there's a number of reasons that businesses fail, but amongst the top 5 is not having enough cash and not being on top of the financial flow in their business. So they're not on top of their numbers. We're all in business to make money. And yet too often business owners, when they start out, we're worried about customer service. We're worried about product development. We're worried about managing our teams, marketing. All of those things have to be put in place. But what's the resource that makes all of that happen? And because most of us have not been taught about money, we're nervous about how do we put our financial statements together? And, there hasn't been a lot of value in the accounting side of the equation. Business owners feel like it's an expense line item. And instead, I see it as a profitability line item, because when your books are managed very well, you're on top of your receivables, you're on top of your payables, you're on top of your profitability, and you can understand where you've got money leaks really quickly. So the way that we work with our clients, the primary department in our business has been for the last few years we are the accounting department for our clients. Those early 6, early 7-figure business owners, we come in, we put the systems in place, and we work very closely with our business owners, really with an educational approach on everything we do. We set up a very structured, very standard accounting department, and then monthly we manage the information and work with our business owners to know how to make those decisions. And part of our work includes this understanding of the emotional relationship with money. Sometimes I will talk to my owners and I'm like, when we're sitting down to have a conversation, I call it the open bathrobe conversation, because the conversation of money is so intimate and it's challenging for everyone. But we create that safe space where people can share with us some of the shame and the challenges and the hurdles that they've had. We've seen it all. So we make no judgments. It's about being curious and finding that starting spot. Where are we starting from? Where do you want to get to? What are your goals? And then what are the decisions we need to make from there? And so before COVID hit, I created these workshops to engage business owners in this conversation of money on an emotional standpoint, and combining the emotional conversation with understanding the practical data.
Yeah.
And we are getting ready to launch those online in April. And I'm super excited about it because I love these conversations of money.
Regarding your clientele, do you work virtually with people, or are you mainly working with folks around Northern California?
Now, we were ahead of the curve before the remote, and I have an IT background that started long ago. So when I launched this business, I launched it to be 100% remote. And we have clients on the East Coast, we have clients in the South, we have clients on the Pacific Northwest, and we've done it. We set up all of the document management, everything is in the cloud, so we all have access to it. And of course, as the software has evolved over the years, we don't need to be on site with the client. It's nice to meet in person. Nothing changes that personal relationship, but I have clients that I've never met in person, and we've been together 5-6 years.
Okay. With your clients, how are you measuring progress? How do you measure client success or any success stories that you could even pinpoint to the work that you've done with them?
Oh, so many ways. And I love small business. And so I really love watching my clients succeed and being a part of that. And you and I both know that the longer we're in business, the more we're going to see the ebbs and flows, both in things that we can control and the things we can't control, like the economy, the weather, COVID.
I was about to say that too.
all of those things. And so really it's twofold in watching our clients progress. First, of course, it's always in watching the numbers. Are we helping them grow their profitable? Are we helping them grow profit in their business? And then how are they using that profit? Are we helping them increase the cash that they're able to hold on to? Are they increasing their staff size? Are they achieving the business goals that they've set out by using the numbers to monitor that? But secondly, we really listen to our clients' conversation and the questions they're asking us and the decisions they're making. The more confident they are in the conversation around money, the questions that they ask us, we've come to this point in our business. What do we do next? And we have seen clients through all kinds of changes. We had clients last year that went through a partnership breakup, and that's a big deal for a small business. And we were able to step in and help them go through that and to watch the business owners grow, both in their education from a legal standpoint, in how to communicate with their teams as this business was going through the transition, was incredible. And they've come out much stronger. And this year is really exciting for them. So it's both watching the business grow, both in numbers and size, but also watching when you can see a business owner really get and understand the finances and be confident about it, their whole posture changes. The way that they step into their leadership changes. So it's a delight to watch our clients grow. And we had a client last year that we transitioned. They had phenomenal growth in 2020. They are a nonprofit organization. And in 2020, the floodgates opened for them. And they transitioned to be on the size that, as our clients grow, one of the measures of our success is, do they outgrow us? Do they need to bring the accounting services in-house? And we can help them transition. And for us, it's just a delight to watch a business grow and sustain that level of growth and be able to bring that accounting service in-house.
Okay, got it. I wanted to backtrack a little bit, since, a lot of the stuff that you're teaching, it's even more impactful because you yourself pulled yourself out of financial hardship through the bankruptcy. And I wanted I think your bio says that you're able to pay off your debt and buy a house within in 7 years. I'm now kind of curious, what kinds of strategies did you even put into place to make all of that happen as you were learning from other people, wealthy people, and what they do with money? What kinds of things were you doing to make all of this happen and turn your life around? I'm sure that was hard emotionally too. Huh? Yeah.
Well, and I did it as a single mom.
On top of all of that. Yeah. How many kids did you have?
I have one. I have one, and my son is biracial. And back then, that was also a challenge.
Imagine. Yeah.
So I'm super passionate. That's why I'm super passionate about making things very accessible and equal. But what I did when I talked to my bankruptcy attorney and he gave me that advice, I take it for granted, but it seems like gold when I talk to my clients and other people about it. But it's really going back to that starting spot. And so I negotiated with my son. He was very little at the time. And we set up Saturday morning as my money dating time. And I knew how to do the accounting. I was already doing it. I had the software to do it, but I also knew just from the very basic skills I had gotten from my parents was how to reconcile your checkbook.
Yeah.
Right. And so know what have you sent out that hasn't hit the bank yet, and knowing what your cash flow is going to be. So I negotiated with my son a time where I could sit down and create that relationship with my money. And this is a time where I paid the bills. I made the plans. As I told you, I was working in IT, so the money was coming in. I was on commission and it was coming in really well. But I used that time every week to sit down and have that relationship with my money and understand how much was coming in, how much did we need, and there's always a surprise. We all always have surprises. And especially with kids, there's a seasonal flow to money. Depending on where you are in your life, I can relate it to families with kids. In the late summer and early fall, there's back to school expenses.
Oh.
In the fall and going towards the holidays, there's the holiday expenses and, additional things that you need for the winter. We come around the beginning of the year where we just come, there's New Year's plans, but there's also prepping. We all have to pay taxes in April. And then there's vacations and kids growing and going to college and parents aging and needing to help them. And then we all need to save for retirement and for our futures and for what we want to do. So it's that the thing that I learned the most about what wealthy people do is twofold. They are always, always, always on top of their numbers, whether they're doing it themselves or they've got somebody doing it. They're always working with someone to understand on a consistent basis, what do the numbers look like? How much is coming in? How much is going out? And are we spending less than we're making? Are we keeping that positive cash flow? Mm-hmm. And then the second thing that they have is what we talked about earlier, Dale. It's that positive attitude about money. They see money as a resource and a helpful tool rather than money, where sometimes in my past, the conversation has been, well, they have a lot of money and so they've done bad things, or money makes people do bad things and be greedy. Money doesn't do anything. It's people and their decisions that do it. So we want to change that relationship with money where it's really, I call it a friend. Money is really there to help us and support us. And it's up to us to tell it how we need its help, how we want to use it, and then have a plan and follow that plan so that we can get where we want to go and create the wealth we want to have.
That all makes sense to me. One of the things I saw on your website, like just even like I believe on your bio page, was the money story. So what's your definition of what is a money story?
A money story is your beliefs about money. What did you learn? We talked about this. Most of what we've learned up to the age of 5. So what were the things that you were told or taught or you believe about money? And it comes from watching whatever family we had, whoever those adults were or guardians were that were primary people who managed the flow of money in the house. What did we learn from our parents and our guardians? Did we learn things that I learned? Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work hard for the money. I've been a workaholic much of my life. I'm a recovering workaholic. Okay. Sometimes it was, well, women, you needed a man to take care of you financially. And so a lot of women have not been taught about money. Or, my mom was always like, see a penny, pick it up all the day, you'll have good luck, those kinds of things. But in every culture, for all of us, you'd be surprised how similar the message is for so many people, which is why I love to have a very diverse conversation, because you'll find that some of us had parents who taught us or guardians who taught us how to be savers and how to protect our money. And some of us will take that to an extreme where we're now hoarding our money. And instead of investing in ourselves or allowing ourselves to enjoy life, we don't do things because we think we don't have enough, when in fact, we may have enough money in the bank to do lots of things, but we're holding ourselves back. Others of us felt so restricted by money that we might go out and just spend it to feel better, and then come home and wonder why we don't have enough to pay the bills or do the other things that we need. So your money story is, what are those beliefs that are driving those decisions? And once we speak about them, Dale, and we bring them into the light bulbs go on. And now we understand that when I'm going out, if I'm feeling bad and I want to go out, or I want to get online and click at Amazon or wherever else we shop, if I'm feeling bad and I think I'm going to buy that thing and it's going to make me feel better, once I understand what my relationship with money is, I can take a deep breath. Do I really need that thing? Let me sit on it overnight and see how I feel about it tomorrow. And instead, maybe I need to call somebody and say, hey, I'm feeling lonely. Or maybe I need to go out and take a walk and just shift my energy because I've had a bad day. It's being able to catch ourselves in that emotional moment from making a bad decision that's going to sabotage our plan.
Got it. How often should business owners then be looking at their numbers? Is this a daily thing or a monthly thing, like a weekly thing? Or like, I feel like what I'm getting from you is kind of like, once you start measuring something, like, for example, when somebody's losing weight, once you start measuring things on, a regular occurrence, like say it's daily, especially if you're trying to lose, I don't know, the last 10, 15 pounds, it's like what you measure, you become more aware of. And it's just, I'm kind of thinking it's a similar thing out of here. Once you're kind of aware and you're measuring, the input, output of money and whatnot, you're more aware of these things. So you have more control, and you're like less in fear. And I'm wondering, like, for your business owners, what kind of advice do you give them as to how often they should be looking at their money and measuring the input and output?
You're so spot on, Dale. And that adage, you can't manage what you're not measuring. Right? Whether
Absolutely.
It's your diet or anything else, money's the same thing. And we all want to manage it, because the better we manage it and the more cash that we can accumulate or have, we start to feel more confident about life. We start to relax.
You feel like yeah, because you have control now,
Totally.
So like, but how often are you recommending your business owners and clients look at this? Is this something they look at on a daily basis?
Well, and it's an excellent question, and it's
whatever.
whatever
It makes me think about it, because I just recently lost my last 15 pounds, and I've been I've been stepping on the scale every day. So like, I'm just equating it to that.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And you look great. I'm curious to know how you did it. But so for business owners, at least once a week and at a minimum once a month. And if you don't know how to put the numbers together, there's lots of people out there that can help you. There's bookkeepers, and you got to be careful at the bookkeeper level, because really good financial statements go beyond bookkeeping and just data entry. It's really understanding that language of the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet, and how all of that information impacts the decisions you make in your business. So, and I would encourage business owners at a minimum once a month. We require our business owners to meet with us monthly, but you want to be doing the books, especially if you're sending out invoices and you're trying to collect from clients, or you've got expenses walking in the door, you've got payroll, all kinds of things, but you really want somebody on top of the books on a daily basis and at a minimum weekly.
Got it. That is very helpful. As we come to wrap up, I do have some final questions for you. First one is about your business. What are you excited about in your business right now?
Really, really excited about launching the workshops, the Amani Money Method. And they really it's a three-pronged approach that we've developed, which is know your numbers, understand the practical side of money, which we've talked about, know your story, which is your emotional relationship with money, and then work your plan. And your plan can be, what's your plan in the short term? What's your plan today? What's your plan long term? It can be a combination of those. But once you're dealing with all those three things and really conscious of the decisions I'm making based on the flow of cash and the goals that I have, now we can make really informed decisions. So and things pop up, surprises pop up. we have this plan, and somewhere along the way, a mistake is made, a decision is made that doesn't help us, or we have an unexpected event. As long as we're managing our numbers, we're in relationship with money in a very positive way, everything can be changed. We can move the numbers around, we can extend the plan, we can shorten the plan, we can increase sales, we can decrease expenses. Once we have this information in front of us, now we're empowered to make decisions rather than trying to make them based on what I call as hope and a prayer financial management.
Got it. Makes sense. This is just a trivia thing for me, but like I wanted to ask you, Amani Financial, how did you come up with the name? Does it mean anything special to you?
Oh, it does. It does. So when I went to incorporate, I made the rookie mistake and I picked a name that was already out there. And so I got some folks to help me do some naming, and this one kind of popped out of the sky, and it's a word that means peace. And so peaceful financial really spoke to me. And then I had a friend who speaks Farsi translate it for me in her culture and her understanding. And she said that what it represents to her is a safe place or person where you entrust the care of your valuables. And so peaceful, trusted care of your valuables, Amani Financial. And someone kind of punctuated that we'd choose the name when I was asking friends what they thought. And he said, it sounds like Armani, go ahead. But for me, it means peaceful financial. And that's what I want to bring to all of our clients, is to help people sleep better.
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. Yeah, totally.
Okay, got it. Another question. What does success mean to you? For everybody, it's different. What does it mean to you?
I think that it means beyond having the freedom to choose, have freedom of choice, basically, which is what wealth is. It's purchasing power. But beyond the financial freedom of having choice and that kind of thing, it's, for me, it's knowing that every day I've been true to myself, and what I've done has been in service and support of somebody else. And if I've known I've made a difference in somebody else's life, I feel really successful on that day and in that space and time. But it's really about, success is about having been able to stand in my purpose and be of service to someone else.
I like that. I wanted to ask you, is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask yet, or any just final words for my audience?
I think this has been such a fun interview, because you've hit on all of the key points that I think are so important around this conversation of money. And I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing, because the conversations you have are so powerful. And I want to encourage all of us to just continue to have these conversations around money, because it will help not only those of us and our friends and our families, but it's going to help future generations.
I agree. I mean, you do a really good job at making the topic of money less taboo, and you make it a free, open space for people to feel comfortable about talking about it. And you do a very good job at that, I could tell. Last question, how can somebody get a hold of you?
So they can go to the website. It is www.amani, AMANI-financial.com. And there's a couple places out there where, if you're interested in finding out more about our accounting services, you can schedule a 30-minute interview and we'll learn more about each other. And then there's also a way where you can go and get our free 14-day money affirmation guide. And that will help start to open up that positive communication and thought process about money. Perfect.
Well, thank you very much for all of that. Everybody, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Sara, for joining me on this episode. You're obviously a wealth of information regarding financial literacy, and I love that you live what you teach. And I love how that you built yourself up from your past financial struggles and figured out how to have a healthier relationship with money. Like I said before, I just wish they would teach more about this stuff in schools. I wish it's like one of those things. It's one of the things I know that I'm going to be taking responsibility for my kids to have that healthy relationship with money. Anyhow, I appreciate all the value from this conversation, and I know my audience will. And then to my listeners, feel free to reach out to Sara directly if you have any more questions for her. Thank you for checking out this episode of the School of Cashflow. And remember to leave me a review on a podcast review on iTunes, as it helps me attract even more great guests like Sara. So until next time, live life abundantly. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the School of Cashflow. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into all the tips and tricks you can use to help you on your passive investing journey. In the meantime, you may visit www.cashflowschoolpodcast.com for more great episodes. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share. That's all for this episode, folks. See you next time.